Hey everyone, thank you for taking the time to tune in to Forward Progress. Help this channel progress forward by clicking that subscribe button. Thank you dearly. Enjoy the show.
What's more monumental than an introduction? An epic instrumental, only right to do it justice. Daily with conviction, every time I touch it. Check your assumptions before my judgment. First you must become me and roll with the punches. End up with a concussion, that's how my brain function. Enter my subconscious, empty out the contents. Ripping up the formula to wrap around the concept. Like a python, clutching like a cyclops. Psyche like a cyclone, spinning in a spiral. Stopping the cycle, silence the conditioning and seek to keep it primal. Listen, for the future to decipher. Simply keep in mind, for we're free to feed the fire. Essential for survival. Be the change you want to see instead of standing idly with preconceived notions that trigger the anxiety inside.
The podcast is based on understanding, like, I'm sure people are watching on and think it's gonna be a lot of like health related physical therapy stuff, and it's like, you know, there's this Instagram profile that was called Without a White Coat. And I learned about 10 years ago, and I was on that platform, and the platform reached out and they were like, we want to introduce you as a Without a White Coat, which is a simple premise. Who are you without a white coat?
I like that.
And it was beautiful and it was inspiring. So, you know, I'll start off by asking, you know, without the track shoes, you know, what are you? Who are you without the track shoes?
Yeah, I'm Gabby. Without the track shoes, like I've learned that too, where I don't separate myself as much. Like, you know, I love business. I do a lot of stuff with hair. I'm very like creative and artsy as well. Like, you know, I'm a daughter, a girlfriend, a friend. Like, I just have a lot to me. I love just having fun and doing different things. I love to bake too, which a lot of people love to take advantage of that in a positive way. But I just think I'm someone who just likes to love and try new things and, you know, have that peace. And I try to bring that on the track as well, but also just making sure I'm not all track all the time. Like, I'm Gabby at the end of the day. I'm not
Absolutely.
Gabby, the track athlete. I'm Gabby Scott, the person.
Have you thought about what life will be after track?
Yeah, all the time.
What
Cause
does that look like? Yeah, what does that look like? Or
yeah, well, I'm definitely not gonna be running, like, for fun.
You're just gonna stop?
Yeah. I'm not the person who's like, oh, I'm gonna start training for marathons. No.
No.
I definitely want to still stay active, so I'll do that. I think I'd want to do more like Pilates and kickboxing, so definitely staying active. Hopefully something just in business, and, you know, I'm starting a podcast as well, and trying to make that like the transition sort of thing.
Talk about that. What is it going to be called? When should we expect?
So it's going to be called Tough Cookie Combos. People can expect it hopefully next week, and we'll see when this is out. So depending on the time with that. So it's basically having desserts and having those tough conversations over desserts and having people explain and share their journey of how they became a tough cookie. And, you know, it's going to be rough in some ways, and it's people's scars and their wounds and their trauma, but also their triumph too, or maybe their current journey of getting through that. And I just love those kind of conversations, because I think too much we're just fluffy, and we see that a lot in sports too, right? We see all of our accomplishments, or as soon as people aren't performing well, we talk down on them, but it's like a lot of people don't talk what's going on behind the scenes in that journey. And that's my favorite thing. And probably one of my favorite parts about myself that I think is a natural gift is giving people that safe space to just talk and be themselves and give them that platform to be like, dang, I really got through some tough stuff. So I'm excited for people to see it.
So I look forward to it. I think it'll be just interesting to see first of all, you have just a wide network of individuals that I'm sure feel safe around you to talk. So I look forward to that. It kind of makes me think of a question that I've actually been dying to ask you. When you were younger, did your family or support system ever say that there was some sort of skill or strength that you had, and something that you didn't really truly believe in, but as you've gone older, you've realized, like, wait a minute, they were kind of right about that?
Definitely that I talk a lot.
I'm with you.
So they've always said that, and I think, you know, that's evolved into, again, giving people that safe space and just naturally making conversation with people. I feel like I've been told in different ways when I was younger, but even more so now I'm realizing it. It's like people are like, you say what you're going to do and what you want to do, and you do it. Like, there's some people, obviously, it's like, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. And, like, they always said, like, you put this out there into the universe and you make it happen at some point in life. And I've had a lot of recent conversations, probably the last couple of years, 2-3 years, where I look back and they remind me, like, yeah, I remember we had this conversation years ago, and now you're doing it. You know, even into, I want to go to the Olympics, you know, and I'm in this space right now and currently, like, qualified, you know, by ranking. And it's like, you said you're going to do that. My mom's like, you have a poster board from when you were in middle school, and now you're about to do it. And, like, my friends in college. So it's like, I think that was just kind of the power of the tongue type of thing, and goes into talking, of course.
Yeah.
Of just speaking things into existence, and it really comes from my heart and my spirit. I don't just say it out of wishing. I say it because I truly believe it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sometimes sets me apart a lot of the times. Like, I speak things I know, I don't know how or when it's going to happen, but I just know it's going to come true.
The power of manifesting.
Yeah.
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 That's a superpower for sure.
It is.
Have you seen the commercial where LeBron is talking to his high school self
Yeah.
in his room?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to recreate that commercial for Gabby Scott in high school, where would it be and what would you tell her?
Oh, man. I think I would have it at my high school's field, like track and field, just because I did soccer and I did track.
Yeah.
And volleyball too, that's in the gym.
By the way, you won states in soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did soccer for 13 years. A lot
Look
of
at
people don't
that.
know that. So I think I would do it then and just...
Paint that picture. Okay, so where are we sitting? Are we in the bleachers? Are we in the center of the field? Where
I
we
think
at?
we're in the center of the field. I think we're in the center of the field. I think it, when it's dark, honestly, with the stadium lights on, I think I have a lot of great moments like that, and for dramatic effect too.
Of course, it's a commercial. It's a commercial.
But I think it's just also telling yourself, like, be patient and be at peace. 'Cause I think that's the mental part of it where I struggle sometimes, is having that patience and knowing I'm capable of things, and just telling myself to have that patience. Like, you felt that in your spirit for a reason. Like, you had that vision for a reason, and it's going to come true. And I can see my younger self being like, all right. Sounds fake, but okay.
but I believe you. I believe you. I'm going to say a quote, and I just want to know your opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Can you repeat it one more time?
Of course. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I say that, and I ask you that because when it comes to someone who's going for the Olympics, you're training a lot of years for this one moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the preparation you have to have, you're almost silent, or you're like constantly just chopping wood.
You're kind of insane, to be honest.
Yeah, you're almost preparing for that, not to diminish what war is, but your event, your moment. Mm-hmm. But you're in regular life.
Yeah.
So how do you stay in that mode for so long consistently?
Yeah, it can be a lot. Like, I tell people all the time, I call it like a track bubble, and especially like when I'm in a training group, and especially in Florida specifically, where a lot of people who know me from track, so it's like I'm in it all the time. And I was actually thinking about that earlier today, where I'm like, dang, like, you just gotta go day after day, week after week, month after month. And I think it's honestly the people from the outside who keep me very grounded. Mm-hmm. I want to stay in it, I want to stay focused, but if you're just too in it, the moment it doesn't go right, it's depressing, and it can really send you down a spiral. And so I'm definitely grateful to be in it, and I try to take it, each journey, and I would never change anything. I'm glad I'm in this space, as insane as it is, but it's my family and friends who know and love me outside of track. It's essentially my hometown in San Diego who watched me grow up, so they literally know me completely outside of track as well, that just really helped me to be intense, stay focused, but I have to check out sometimes too, because otherwise it's going to be too much.
I appreciate that. And is there something practical from a day-to-day that keeps you, that you kind of make sure you can check into? For example, like you talk about baking. Is that a time when you're baking, you really don't think about track?
That's my stress reliever for sure. And one of my assistant coaches actually says it. He's like, Gabby, that's what you need to keep doing. And I try to use you as an example, like, go have other things to do. I think my first time when I moved to Florida, I had just graduated school, so it was always school and track, so that kind of keeps you a little bit balanced. But when I moved here, I was going to practice, and by 2 o'clock, I had nothing else to do. And it's like, okay, that sucks. And so I think it's important to have a hobby, or, if you have like a little side hustle, or you just get together with friends and family if they're nearby. I think that's really important. Just have something else that has your love, your time, and attention, because when it's just 24/7 track, it's just, like I said, it's too much. Yeah, you have to have something else that you love.
Absolutely. And love is right. There's a fine line between love and hate, right? So it's that constant battle between what you love, and so you inspire me. I'm inspired by so many people, and typically the people who I will have on this podcast are gonna be they're here for a reason, because I love the consistency, the attentive to your schedule, the ability to understand, like, your power and your platform and recovery and so on and so forth. And I don't take lightly the trust that you've kind of you've had in me in any significant way. I appreciate it, and so I really don't. I just want to give you your flowers whenever I can to let you know, like, you're an incredible person who people do look up to. And I say to say, so thank you for that. But I say that to hopefully guide this next part, which is, was there ever a moment when you were shocked and realized, like, well, I actually might have a little bit of a platform, or I might be something to someone, or whatever it is, and how important is that to you?
Yeah, I think especially when it's been some like the younger athletes on the island in Puerto Rico, like when they talk to me and they freak out or anything, or they talk to someone that I know, and that means a lot to me, and it makes me realize it's so much bigger than me. I think it's definitely the younger generations when, like I said, you're so here all the time, especially it being an individual sport. And I think when I've had conversations with people who've been through the same thing and are currently going through that, maybe now have some of those lessons to share in their blueprint, that's when I'm like, wow, like, okay, people are watching me, and not in a fandom way. It's in a way, like you said, looking up to me and realizing, like, okay, she's been through it. Like, that means I can get through this too. Or it's like, she started kind of not that fast at the bottom. I was never a prodigy. And that's my favorite thing too, when I have people who were like me. I was running 56 seconds in high school.
Yeah.
And so I'm showing people, like, you can be a late bloomer and still be successful. So when I've had examples of people reaching out and saying, I'm here, or like, I just saw you do this interview, I saw you run this, or you posted this caption, like, that's what I love. And that's why sometimes I want to disconnect off social media, but it's hard because I do feel like I'm very genuine in my captions, and people feel like, they kind of know who I am through that. And so I keep those platforms to share my story. And like I said, to be like, this is me, this is my journey. And I just wanted to share it for other people to have it as well.
That's awesome. So you mentioned Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I know you've dove into this in other podcasts, but if I were to ask a question, it would be, it's funny because I just recorded previously with a softball player who plays for a Puerto Rican team.
Okay.
And then I'm recording with you, who's going to Olympics representing Puerto Rico. And if I remember correctly, you are the first Puerto Rican to advance in the women's 400 at the World Champs in 2022.
Yeah.
How was that moment for you?
I didn't even know that was a stat at first when they told me. I was like, I was just happy that I like barely like snuck in there. Like I was literally in fifth the last 100 meters when I was like got top 3.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those moments that I didn't really take in at that time until like my mom told me, and then I think it was like after the competition and everything like that. And I was like, that was a big thing. I think it's one of those times where I hold myself to such a high standard, but it, you have to take a step back. Like, this was a big thing. And again, it's just another piece that I've given people to have hope in themselves and be like, okay, she did it, I can do it too. So
Heck yeah. And you just talked about having a setback. I'm curious. The reason why I have a profound little affinity for having conversations with athletes is because you don't get to who you are without setbacks.
right.
What's the one that really you look back and go, wow, I really got through that? What was that moment?
Probably in high school, honestly. That has actually nothing to do really with track specifically. I had torn my meniscus my sophomore year, and this is when I'm getting recruited for volleyball, everything. This is like my main sport this time. I had decided to not do soccer anymore as far as the club level. And I was getting recruited, and I was with a great team, and I tore my meniscus. And so my season was done for that year. I did track for a couple more meets once it was healed enough, but then I had to get surgery. And basically, there's the club politics that play a role, and my high school coach was not happy that I had chosen the club team that I did instead of the one that she was at. And when it came to tryouts, she didn't put me on varsity, even though I had been pulled up from JV the previous year, and was kind of using me as an example. Like, okay, we have this older girl, we want you to be just like her, and we want you to go to college. Like, it was known I was going to be on varsity next year. And all the other girls who got pulled up were on varsity. And that was hard. That was the hardest. I remember crying at practice. I mean, I was talking to AD because I'm like, this isn't fair. Like, I was expected to be on it. And that kind of affected everything else, because the way it works is then the next club season, they want you to have varsity experience to make the top club team. So now I didn't technically have that experience, so now I cannot make the top club team, which totally messed up my recruitment. So that pretty much killed any chance of me getting recruited for college volleyball. But I was able to go back to soccer because they asked me. I'm like, I haven't touched a soccer ball in a year.
And that's a long time at that time. That's like
What?
15% of your life.
Exactly. And so they were like, listen, we lost some seniors. We want you to come, just try out. I was like, okay. And I tried out. I made the team. I'm like, okay, I'm just here for the funsies. And then I would end up being the starting forward. I was like, oh. And that's the year we won state champs.
Yeah, wow.
And because that year, training and doing obviously a lot of endurance work in soccer, that's the year that I popped off in track.
Oh, wow.
And then that's when I started to get recruited. And eventually that's what led me to commit to the University of Colorado.
Wow.
So that's where I look back. And to this day, I've seen that coach a couple times since then, and a little salty because I loved volleyball. That was my passion, and it was probably the hardest.
What position?
Outside hitter.
Outside.
Well, switching more, preferred opposite, but I was being switched to outside hitter.
Fair enough.
And so I loved it, and that was a really hard transition because it was going away from the sport that I loved into something that I kind of just stumbled upon, and that's why I tell everyone, like, my whole track career has just been stumbling into it, like not really knowing how things work. But like so when I look back on it, I got through it and everything worked for the best because I wouldn't have done soccer again, and I probably wouldn't have been in the shape that I was to then qualify for states in track and field my junior year, which then allowed me to be in conversations and then commit to the University of Colorado. And then the rest was history as far as track and field continuing.
Wow, that's incredible. It's it goes to show like you're when you're typically on that stage of like constant battles and it's like when you're close to achieving where you want to be. That's I hope that people take that because you're no different than everyone goes through their struggle. What you excel in is not giving up.
No.
Right? It's like, okay, I got to do the next thing. I got to do the next thing.
You have to just keep going.
You got to keep going. I'm gonna say this quote, and I just want to see what you take from it. Is my mom is the smarts. I mean, my dad is very intelligent, but my mom is the engineer with a photographic memory. She's super smart. What does your mom mean to you?
Oh, my mom means everything to me. That's my dog. No, she is the definition of resilience for sure, and just, such a hard worker. I mean, yeah, she's super smart naturally, but you have to put the work in, right? Just like you have physical athletic talent. It's the same thing. And she's always loved me so much and just supported me, and I can rely on her for anything. But I always say she's that example of just, excuse my French, but like get shit done. Like get it done. Like put your head down and you work. She's in a very white male dominated field and she just never let that stop her. Now she's in like pretty much the highest position that she can be at her job as a civilian. So she means the world to me. She's always my example. I always tell her I'm going to always work hard to spoil her, and I can never give back, obviously, fully what she's given me. As
you literally can't.
Right, I literally can't, but I'm always going to try because she just deserves the world. I mean, she's the definition of, unconditional love without expecting anything back.
I love that. Shout out to the moms out there.
Yeah, man. We love them.
We love them. And that actually leads me, as a part of a, Hispanic culture, family, there is a sense of we're really close.
Yeah.
In a lifestyle where you are very dependent on staying disciplined with training and travel, what do you do to make sure that you still prioritize your friends and family?
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Kevin Melendez here, and this episode is brought to you by SWISH Physical Therapy and Performance, the #1 physical therapy clinic in Oviedo and Orlando, Florida, where we meet evidence, technology, and experience and bring it together to bring the best results possible. Thank you. Back to the episode.
Yeah, that's a work in progress.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie because I'm an only child, so it wasn't, and all my extended family was always on the island, and then my dad's family was kind of like spread out and like not super close. So I didn't really grow up with the whole, you're talking to them all the time, and you're always around them. And
I'm one of 6, so like,
Six? Why did I forget it was 6?
Yeah, it's a lot.
And so when I moved obviously all the way across the country too from all my friends, like it had to become more of a habit. And like I said, when I'm deep into season, I'm in all these different time zones traveling, like I have been called out by some of my friends and even my parents, like, hey, like, still pick up the phone, check in, things like that. So I can admit it's definitely a work in progress because it's not as natural. And it's not because I don't care. It's just sometimes feel like, one, people don't always understand, of course, what I'm going through and, like, where I'm at. Another thing is just I'm just so exhausted sometimes. Like I don't want to be on the phone with anybody,
Yeah.
talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a lot better this year, and a lot of my friends have made comments about that. And I think that's important because I don't want, when I'm finished track, I have all these friendships that slip by the wayside, or those relationships have been damaged. And of course, they're always going to love me, but the same way I'm doing big things, they're doing great things too. And I want them to know that even though it's not Olympics and stuff like that, like what they have going on is important. What they're accomplishing is important. And so I've definitely been pouring a lot more into that this year.
I love that. So I'm somebody who's very work oriented and works a lot of hours and has goals and so on and so forth. And I was at a point in my life where I knew I needed to make a change with that. I needed to be a little bit better for friends and family, and or at least that's something that I had in my own brain, right? You ask them, So, anyways, I got to a point where I was trying to do my own self work. So I was reading books, and and the one book I read was like, text your 5 to 10 closest people and just tell them, hey, how can I be better in your life? And out of like 10 of them, I want to say, first of all of them were like, what are you talking about? But like 7 out of 10 of them had a similar answer, which was, when you're with us, can you just be more present? And that was crazy because it made you realize that just because you spend time with somebody doesn't mean that you're actually like really giving them quality time. And so that meant a lot to me because at that point I was like, okay, so if this is majority, then it's a thing. It's a thing. So at that point I was like, all right, so I got to practice letting them know like I'm here. So all right, that's not being on my phone. That's letting them know I'm here for this much time, but I'm all here. Like, what can I do? What can I, those kind of things. And that's something that really meant a lot to me. If you're dealing with anything like that, that's the suggestion I would have is like, just text your 3-5 people and just see what they say.
But that's good that you even like recognize wanting to do that. I think that's the first step is like even wanting to be better. Because I think some people, especially in friendships, relationships, can think they're not the problem and not actually ask those questions like, how can I be better?
Yeah. And
so I think that's huge that you did that in the first place, and then obviously doing that and then implementing that as well.
Thank you. Yeah. It came from a point of, when you're late at night and you're looking at you can't fall asleep and you're looking at the ceiling and going, what's missing?
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, I have a great family, close family, great friends. Why do I feel like I'm still empty?
Yeah, where's the gap?
And it was that gap of not being present during those moments that wasn't fueling me.
Yeah.
So just learning that has been, I'm not perfect. Trust me. I'm still work in progress.
Work in progress.
That's why the podcast is called Forward Progress for that reason, right? So it's figuring out how we can continue to strive at that. I'm gonna say a name, and I want you to tell me what impact does this person have in your life. David A. Smith II.
I knew that. Aww. That's my dog too. No, he is my best friend. I couldn't be where I'm at without him. Like in my track world, the fact that he had that experience ahead of me. He's also an Olympian himself, very accomplished. He was able to teach me all the lessons and maybe even give me things that he didn't have. He didn't always have the financial support and, the coaches and things like that the way I do. He was able to give me that base. I'm very big on people I can rely on. I've had a lot of people kind of go in and out of my life when it comes to friends sometimes, and he's always been a constant. And, when all goes wrong or right or whatever in track and life, that's a home. Like I've always said, he's taught me that home is not a place. It really can be a person. So he means the world to me.
Shout out.
I'm probably boosting his head too much.
No, listen. It's funny because people always ask me how we met and how how we met. But we met through David, and we had played basketball through 24-hour fitness or whatever, and it was a stretch of time where we kept seeing each other. Then he finally asked me, "What do you do?" And I was like, I'm actually a physical therapist. Just started my clinic, and then I started telling him about the diagnostic, our SWISH performance assessment. He came in, we did it, and he loved it. And then he was like, "Do you have anybody the next hour?" And then I was like, "No, we actually don't." Then he called you right away, and then you came right away.
Yeah.
And then I did it with you, and then and the reason why I love it is because as confident as I can be, you don't have proof. You can be confident, but there's proof in the pudding. So, that was a month after I had opened.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So for a month to get a sense of validation of, what I'm doing is okay, and on top of that, it's different, and it's something that someone of your level could benefit from.
Yeah.
that was it was a push that was very that I'm extremely grateful to this day. So
I tell them about that all the time. I'm like, you make people believe in themselves. Like, you somehow come in every time and you just have that authentic energy and just say the right things, or someone's like, dang, I was starting to doubt myself, or I wasn't sure, and you just put that belief back in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm gonna show you. We're at the part of the podcast where I'm gonna show you a photo.
Okay.
I'm gonna show the audience first, and I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Okay. And then your job is to just tell me what this means to you. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna start with.
I gotta look away. Look away.
And then here you go.
I'm so young. I probably look the same.
You do.
That definitely meant a lot to me. What people don't know with like me signing to Colorado is, again, I was not this like top 5, 10 in the nation being recruited by every school. I was having to reach out to coaches.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was sending all the recruiting emails, everything. No one was recruiting me.
Wow.
I was doing all of that, and I hadn't heard back from majority of the schools. I think it was Stanford, or not Stanford, well, Stanford, but they were like, your SAT scores. I'm like, well, I'm not retaking that. So we already tried. But it was also my main recruiting ones were Boise State and Utah. And then I actually sent a second round of emails.
Wow.
And Colorado got back to me the second time and said, well, tell me what it would mean to be a buffalo, which is their mascot. And I had drafted a whole like letter of what it would mean to me. And from there, that's when they finally said, hey, come out for a visit. And, I went to that school only on 20% athletic scholarship.
Wow.
So people just assume full ride. No, I was on 20% scholarship. And when I was getting offered 60 to 80% at Utah, but on top of that, I was able to have academics, luckily, but I took a gamble. And so that's what that picture means to me is like, first of all, Colorado took a risk on me. Yeah, definitely. Because I was, like I said, I wasn't super fast at the time or anything like that. But then I also took a gamble, again, believing in myself. I didn't know how, but I was like, I want to be amongst the best. And I think being at this school is going to put me amongst the best.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listen, there's so many nuggets there that people can take, especially high school athletes. You had to go out there and advocate for yourself. That's something that I don't think our high school athletes even understand that they have that power to. Yeah. Like, that was before, like, mixtapes were made just for you. You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
The highlight reels were like, puts it on yourself.
Yeah, or you had like an AI that you can just create, like whatever it is. So that's huge, and something that I wish I would have known at when I was in high school. Like, just that you could even
do that.
You don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So I hope they really take that. And you took a game. One of my favorite questions to ask is, what's one time you took a risk and it paid off? And that's really
when I took a risk. I mean, like I said, I gave up 60 to 80% scholarship. I would have been comfortable because I think they were offering 60, and if I had hit a certain time later that season, they would have given me 80. But I also wasn't happy there when I went to visit. Like, when I went to Colorado, I was like, this is the school. Like, if you look for that moment, I was like, this is the school. I don't care how we're going to make it happen, but we're going to make it happen. And, my last 2 years, I was basically on full ride. And so that was just Gabby taking a chance.
Wow.
On herself.
So this next one is... I'm going to show it, and then I'll show you.
Oh my God, is this a surprise?
And here you go.
So this was my sophomore year. The track coach had been trying to get me to run for the longest. They actually thought I was just going to do high jump. Because they had seen me do, like, running and soccer. So, like, okay, she's kind of fast. We know soccer speed and track speed, two different things. Yeah. But when I came to tryouts, they're like, oh, so you can run. Also,
yeah, she's fast.
Yeah, fast. And so this was both the 4x1, I missed when I got to run those, and the
4x1,
and I think that's a sprint, the distance medley, the DMR, so distance medley relay, and that was so fun. This was one of my first meets. I remember I was so nervous I couldn't even put my spikes in my shoes. My coach had to do it because I was a sophomore. All of them were juniors and seniors. But that was basically the start of it. I had no idea. I mean, the high school coach was already saying that, like, you've got something. You're gonna reach the highest level. Like, dude, I'm not even doing this for real. Like, this is still when volleyball was like my main sport. I was like, this is just like for funsies. I was still doing club. Volleyball was very much my main sport. I had just cut soccer a few months prior. Like, I was just doing it for the funsies. Yeah. And who knew that now we'd be sitting here talking about Olympics also.
I love that. I'm gonna fast forward to the next one really quick. So I'm gonna show them because it is a quick tell me now you go from that to this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and that's great, like memory too, because that was in last year, 2023. 2018 was my first CAC, so that's the same competition, Central American Caribbean Games. And 2018, I was just happy to make the relay team. That was my first time competing for Puerto Rico. And same thing, I was super nervous. I was just part of the relay team. We got like fifth, so we didn't medal or anything. And so for, what is that, 4 years later? 5 years later? Math. 5 years.
It's somewhere there. It's
Right.
somewhere.
5 years later, to then be an individual medalist and a bronze medalist in the women's 400, which in the Caribbean is very difficult at this point. 'Cause we have some of the best runners in the women's 400. Was huge. It was definitely a full circle moment of like, dang, you went from being the baby of the group to and being happy to be there and just running a relay to now like I was a medalist.
Yeah.
And finishing amongst, with some of the best in the world.
Heck yeah, I love that. I love that. I have one final one, and I know you've talked about this before, but I'm bringing this up because for those who don't know how cool this is, I feel like this is more for them, but for you to say, I think you already know. But here's the last one, and please explain what that is.
Oh, that was a cool interview. Yeah, the 50 most interesting athletes. First of all, the photos were fire.
Yeah.
Fire. I mean, I'm working with that photographer again soon, actually, because it was just a great time. Yeah, that was fun. I think that was, again, one of the times where they kind of touched on some different things, and it wasn't just your basic interview, and that's just kind of their whole premise is like, interesting athletes, meaning not the fastest or strongest, whatever, but the most interesting athletes. And I think that gave people a chance to know me. I had so much feedback from that interview. I mean, through social media and in person and text and everything. Everyone's like, this was amazing. Like, I didn't know this about you or that. And like I said, anytime where I get to like share my story, it's cool. And not just because I'm like, yay, people know me. It's like, you understand the journey. And now, like I said, you can learn for yourself or someone that you know, or for the younger ones or the ones currently in it. So that was dope all the way around.
I love that. I love that. If go ahead and check out that article. It is the 50 most interesting athletes for Gabby Scott. Check that out. It's really dope. They did a podcast, which I'm pretty sure, or some sort of interview.
It was, so they have audio and written, whichever you prefer.
That's what it is. I actually want to ask you a little bit. Obviously, I'm a physical therapist, so I want to get into a tiny part of that side of it.
Of course.
Because the point of SWISH, when I created it, was built off a simple idea, which is how would I have helped me when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then literally I always think like, and because I would have avoided so many injuries, I would have been able to play so much more, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What has been now something you value so much in your strength conditioning and recovery that you downplayed a lot when you were younger?
Yeah, I think because my dad, having been a professional basketball player, I kind of knew recovery was pretty important, but obviously you don't have the accessibility like we do here. And I love the kids who have access to, your work. I was definitely either you did the cold tub in the trash can or you did the jacuzzi in the apartment complex. That was it. 'Cause I did know I had to get something in. I was pretty fortunate that I've always been kind of durable, knock on wood. And I was in high school. I didn't really have any serious injuries besides the meniscus, and that was simply planting your foot and turning type of thing. But yeah, I still wish, I think in college, I honestly wish I knew more. I think we had, decent athletic trainers, which you then learn is very different from an actual PT. Not just the schooling, but, everything, the knowledge too. So I think I wish in college I had understood a little bit more as far as, the recovery versus just rolling out or ice tub, cold tub, or ice tub, hot tub type of thing. So I think in that space, when you're really transitioning, your body is changing a lot in college. You go from high school kind of la da da to you're working. So I think that's a space that, I would have loved to know more what I know now. But I mean, I definitely want more and more kids to have that knowledge early on, especially it can be women too, but I think especially boys who are pushed more to do strength conditioning and lifting weights and doing it on a body that's just not prepped properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I tell people all the time, there's a difference between, of your body's your vehicle. So I always say when you're training and performing, you're pushing you're pressing the gas pedal, so you're going. I say physical therapy or recovery type stuff, is the tune up to allow your vehicle to get pushed.
Right. It makes me think that people like, well, I'm thinking
Yeah,
cars
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
exactly.
movie, but like
That
actual
stop, and
F1
then
where they stop at yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So when people, and then they look they're similar in the sense of where we got to make sure the wheels are
Yeah.
in order to make sure the wheels are running, you gotta test the car in order, you know what I mean? So it can look similar, but there's so much intention behind what the point
100%.
of it is happening. So
Yeah, and I see a lot of people coming out of college who go pro who have to learn that maybe somewhat the hard way because they were used to like, oh, I could just get through, and be fine. And they get to pro, and because we're training so much harder now, that it's like really recovery is probably the second most important thing. Like you have like training and like it's like right here, like not even that far, like right here, because
Exactly.
we're just hitting it hard all the time. There's a lot who get injured in that transition because they just don't know, and then which massage therapist or PT or whatever, and it's a hard transition. The recovery becomes sometimes even more important than the training itself at a certain point of the season.
Yeah, a lot of miseducation, and I think a lot of it is due to wanting to not collaborate, but instead feel like they're going to be asked to do a lot more. In other words, like for example, and I don't even mind putting this out there. When we've worked together, I don't think I've ever asked you to be like work with me for like the next 20 visits.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they think there's some sort of like
kind of a hold.
yeah, like we're
you.
trying to hold on. It's like
Yeah.
no. Take what I do really well, implement it into what everyone else does, and then figure like it's that collaboration, and people are scared of that, and that's where that misinformation ends up
100%.
happening.
And I'm definitely grateful for the people I have on my team who all have pretty much that mindset of like, oh, you're doing that there? Okay, cool. That's good for me to know so I can like either add to it or adjust or whatever, and vice versa. All the people on my team are very like collaborative mentality because I don't have the time for you. No one knows everything.
Exactly, and no one shouldn't know.
No,
Everything.
exactly.
That's
I'm
too much power.
too much power. I'm a little concerned if you do.
So being that this podcast is called Forward Progress, can you share a book, podcast, or resource that has profoundly impacted your perspective? Or a quote, any one of those.
Because I only read so much. My mom's gonna be disappointed in that. I would say probably the Four Agreements was pretty great.
The Four Agreements.
Yeah, so I just okay. Don't ask me to recite the four. I can't.
I won't. But it's one that had an impact on you.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest ones was always do your best. And it was talking about sometimes like your best is gonna be, if we're talking about the 400, like a 51 high. Sometimes it's gonna be 50 points. Sometimes it might even be 52. And I think that has brought me so much peace because I'm like, if I can truly walk away from any situation on and off the track and be like, that was the best that I had, the greatest intention, effort, everything. What can I do? That's what it was meant to be. And so the Four Agreements is great. Obviously, there's 3 other ones in there, but that part of it, but that book, I think, just sets your mentality different. And I think it's great, especially like if you're like of faith, but you don't have to be. I think that's what's great too. I think it's applicable to everybody, the way that they explain it too. And I think a lot of people can gain, whether you're an athlete or not, just in general, I think it just gives you a better sense of life and what we're expected to be like on this earth. We're not expected to just be guinea pigs or hamsters on a wheel all the time, just going. There's so much more to life, and we're supposed to be so much more stable. So it helps with that.
So I wanted to make sure that I cover this topic because I know that that's something that I deal with and that I've dealt with in the past and constantly got to make sure I'm on top of it, which is anxiety and panic attacks. Tell me, yeah. So tell me, Lil Birdie tells me that there are times when you will have those, or you've had them when you've had challenges with your 400 or 400 with hurdles or or dealing with a coach or whatever it is. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started experiencing anxiety like my senior year of high school. Never had issues with it before, and all of a sudden it came before this presentation. I'm like, I'm great at presentations. Why am I feeling this way? And so that's something I've been dealing with since then. And I think especially with the expectations you can put on yourself, the pressure that you can feel. Yeah, it would be rough. It would be rough sometimes. I would check my hands before races and they would be like shaking.
Yeah.
I experienced panic attacks for the first time in fall training in 2022, and then even another time in season 2023. And I think the same thing where I just felt like out of control of my emotions and out of control of like, I know I can do these things physically and it's just like not happening. And it's tough. I feel like this is the most at peace I have felt, which is great. I do go to therapy. I highly recommend it. If people are dealing with it and they feel like they can't get a control on it. Because my coach is very honest and he's like, I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do my best to boost you up and make you
course.
feel good, but I'm not a therapist. And, just the same way you want to see the right professionals and same with you, it's the same way. And that's helped me a lot to just alleviate some of the pressure and just take things for what they are versus starting to freak out of, well, what if this happens and this doesn't go well, it's going to affect that. That's what was happening. But also, like I said, putting the right people around you. I had to make some adjustments to my team because, like I said, certain people were just making me feel more anxious, making me feel if I messed up, like it was affecting them and they were taking that personally. I don't have time for that. I'm hard enough on myself. I don't need people who are gonna make me feel even worse about what's going on.
Absolutely. I went to therapy as well, and the biggest thing that helped me was understanding the definition. So anxiety is the fear of the future, right? So once I was like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So the way to get immediately out of that is by being as present as possible, which talks about or goes back to what I was dealing with when I was around friends and family, right? Yeah. So, it was that, why am I always, and so one of the things was whenever I started to feel that, and I'm not perfect, but whenever I started to feel that or start to feel those moments, I got to do something that forces me to be present.
Yeah. That's
right. So that's where I got into like making coffee, right? So I have to fill this thing so I can, or this kettle so I can go heat it up. I have to grind these beans, and it forces you to just be present. Have these little things throughout the day that just forces you, okay, I have to be present in order to do this. It's kind of some little things that I've done.
I like that. Yeah. So my therapist is kind of similar. It's not necessarily physically doing something, but it is taking a pause of like, what is like actually happening right now? Like, what is the current situation?
Okay, so taking a
pause and like whether it's in that moment or maybe after your emotions settle, whatever, but just being like, what is actually happening versus thinking this could affect that, or I have to see that. Like, no, what is currently going on? Where are we in training, or where are we in life? How am I feeling currently, and what is my current reality? And that brought me down versus like, again, like I said, the fear of the future and just going all over the place. And then sometimes realizing like, okay, what is best or worst case scenario, and then what is, like I said, reality. And then sometimes when you think of worst case scenario, like, okay, there are obviously life stuff where there is worse, but a lot of the time, especially when you think of worst case, like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. And even then, what are the chances of like that actually happening?
Yeah.
And then what's the best it can be?
Yeah.
I know we both bought when we talk about Russ, and like that's one of my favorite clips when someone's like, what's the best advice you ever got or you ever received? And he was like, what's the best it could be?
Yeah. What if it could be better than you can ever imagine?
Yeah, there it is. Exactly. Yeah. That's the exact words. Like, I would get that tattooed, honestly. Like, because we think, oh, what's the worst that can happen? It's like, what if it's better than you ever imagined?
Yeah.
Ever since that alone was just like a switch in perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you, I have a few more, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So looking forward, what are the next goals or areas you want to focus on for continued progress? Obviously, I think we know you're headed. So is that like, what goals do you have?
Yeah.
What are your goals?
I mean, obviously the track is like the Olympics right now. That's definitely the big thing. And I really want to perform the best I can. I really want to run 49 this year because I don't care if I've only ran 50.99. I know what I can do. You know what I'm saying? I said I speak it and it's going to happen. Those are probably like the track goals. Off track, I would definitely like to see where the podcast goes. My mom has always joked that she's like, you're going to end up having your own show in some
I love that
respect. So, I would love to just see where that goes and have those conversations. I would say those are probably the biggest things. And, I would love to go, like I said, just keep connected with my friends and my family. I want to try to go on some trips with some friends and really spend that off season as an off season. So that's one of my big goals too, is just continue to really work on those friendships and my relationship and everything too with my parents and have some good times. I can't wait to go celebrate at the Olympics. Like, that's one thing I can say, regardless of how it goes, the fact that I was there, my people are going to celebrate me. Like, I might be hard on myself. If it doesn't go, whatever, we're not going to speak that. But I love that I have a space where they are going to love and support me regardless. And I'm so excited.
I love that. I look forward to being on the end of your support and knowing you got a fan over here. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have, so we're talking about Russ, and shout out to Russ.
Right.
There's a song he has called Tunnel Vision. And I always say one of my love languages is music, and I speak through it. So I'll find these little moments, a little
Man
bit.
loves music.
Yeah, music. So because it's like, I wish I could verbalize it in those ways, right? So he has this part in the song that says, he goes,
You gonna sing it for us?
I'm not gonna sing it, but I'll say it. Hold on, let's see what it is. It goes, inconveniences are hurdles discipline jumps over. I want to see how it feels to do 12 months sober. I want to feel self-love without the vanity. I want to feel what it's like to give a Grammy speech. I want to see exactly how far I can take this independent thing, which is obviously business. How high I can fly just to learn how to extend my wings. What it would be like to be patient. This is a me thing. What it would be like to stop shaming myself into victory. So when I win, it doesn't feel defeating. And that to me is super powerful, because I'm always one to feel like I have to work for 20 out of the 24 hours in order
Beating
for
yourself up
for me to feel like
finish
for me to feel like I deserve the whatever success it was. I'm the one that, I gotta, whatever it is, like, you know what I mean, like like you don't deserve it unless you do the worst to yourself. And that's something I'm really trying to work on. And I think we are similar, where, and I think athletes is that dire focus, but just know you have a bunch of people that are surrounded that love and adore who you are, and I wish you nothing but so much success.
Thank you.
And you got this, and thank you so much.
I'm glad I didn't cry when you're giving me my flowers. I'm such a crybaby. I'm so proud.
The last thing I'll say, and it's really not really a question, it would be, or I guess it is, it's if you can help me get one person that you know on this podcast who also has a growth mindset, who would it be?
A growth mindset. I would say probably, let me boost in his head too. Probably Kyron McMaster, who runs 400 hurdles for British Virgin Islands. So he did an interview with Justin Gatlin, and I think it's the same thing. Like, you really understand his story, and I think it's a very transparent person. He's been at the top, fell to the bottom. Now, has worked his way back to the top, and I think has a dope story. And I think, especially coming from such a small country that obviously some people don't even know it exists, depending if you look at a map.
Yeah.
I think he'd be dope. So I'll give him his flowers. That's my dog.
All right. Well, I hope we can get him on.
Yeah.
We'll try our best.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. Appreciate
it.